Okay, another day on the van. Now what I've got done here is, if you remember last time, I made these ceiling panels, painted them black, and that's all looking good. Next thing that we want to do to continue with the ceiling is we need to cut up this cladding, and to do that we need to use this table saw, but we also need 3 meters clearance either way, because the things are 3 meters long. So I'm going to do a little bit of rearrangement in the workshop, get that set up, and then I'll show you what I'm doing with this cladding. Alright, so we've rearranged a little bit here in the workshop, and I've got the table saw set up. I've got 3 meters that way, and I've got 3 meters that way. So we can put these pieces of cladding through. The reason I'm doing this is I want to take the tongue off, and I want to take the groove off, and then I want to cut them exactly in half. And I've calculated that I need about 34 of them. So this is quite a job, and it's just going to be a matter of standing here pushing this wood through that saw. So here we go. Alrighty, quite a bit of debris forming up here. But I've got the tongues and I've got the grooves off all of them. Now, next thing I'm going to do is use this piece of scrap, find the dead center of it, and then I'll set the saw up so it will saw this exactly in half. Let me just show you what I've done here. I've put this through the saw this way, that way, and I've flipped it over and done it that way, and the blade is hitting exactly the same channel. So these are equal. So now the job is to put all of these, how many have I got? I've got 15, 16, 17, I think I've got 18 of them. So they're all going to go through the saw, and they'll end up slats like this. Okay, so they've all been through the saw, and they're all looking good. But the next thing to do with all this, well, next thing to do here is clean up the workshop. That'll work great as kindling for my little open fire. So I'm going to keep all that. I'll give the place a sweep, get the table back where it belongs, and then we'll see what happens next with these. I think I'm going to sand them next. Okay, so for the next phase of this, I have the belt sander set up here, and I've got that attached to the hoover. There's going to be quite a lot of dust coming out of this, and my plan is to take each one of these, and it just needs a light sanding, doesn't need much wood removing. I'll just run them along the sander like so. I'll bring them back the other way just to take, as I say, the sharp edges off. Do that on both sides to, how many did I say, 36 of them. And then these will be ready for painting. You see, I mean, there is the question, why not just buy slats this size? Well, it's because they're horrendously expensive. And these want to be 3 meters long. Very difficult to get hold of, actually. But a dressed piece of plain square edge timber, 8 millimeters by 36 millimeters, would cost a fortune. Whereas, with a little bit of work, a little bit of effort, I've gotten all of these, and they are going to be absolutely fine from a few packs of cladding, which is very cheap material. So that's why. Would it have been easier just to buy a whole load of them? Sure. But it would have been a lot more expensive as well, and I don't mind doing the work. It's only going to take me an afternoon to do all of this, and then we'll be good to go. So it's going to be noisy. Okay, so if you can see that I've just sanded that down, so we've got all the saw marks out of there. That's all good. And just bringing it back through on a slight angle is going to put that radius on there and just get rid of all those sharp edges. Doesn't matter about the back so much, that's going on to the ceiling. But these do have a face and they have a back, so important to get it the right way round. So I'm going to continue with these, and then we will see if we've got enough time left in the day to paint them. Okay, so having sanded all of them, which took some time, and the next thing to do is give them a coat of paint. I've got some undercoat here, just some flat white undercoat first, and I've set up this sort of apparatus in the workshop, and the idea is to put each one of them across here as we go. Simply start at this side with the roller and give all of these a coat of paint. Again, being careful to make sure that I'm doing the right side here. They've all had the first coat. Now I'm going to leave that to dry, and there's not much else I can do in the workshop at this point. This is taking up quite a bit of room, so I'm going to leave it to dry. I'll come back later, sand them down, and then we will start giving them the top coat. This is a sort of mid-grey I'm going to do these, which will be the same paint that I use for the framework on the cabinets, and maybe a few other little bits and pieces in the van. Okay, and these have had overnight. They're now dry, nice and dry. I'm going to get them up on a bench and I'm going to sand them. I'm going to use a 120 grit sandpaper and just take any burrs off, any of the raised grain from the undercoat, and we'll prep that up for its final coat. So as I say, I've got my 120 sandpaper and a block, and the idea is to simply give these a light going over, and they will be ready. Okay, I think we're nearly there with this. They've all been sanded and they've been given a coat of this grey paint. I'm going to let them dry, and then I'll have a look at them, inspect them, see if they need another coat. If they do, I'll give them another coat. But this is looking okay to me so far, actually. There's little parts of it already dried, and it's drying fairly smoothly. So, as I say, we'll let the whole thing dry, and then we'll see about getting it up on the van ceiling. Okay, they've all been painted. This is them here. And I've got one up on the bench. I'm just going to have a quick look in the van and figure out how to do this. What I've got, first of all, is, again, very dark in here. I'll see if I can open this back now. That might be okay until the winds pick up. But on this section here, obviously I'm going to carpet this piece, and I didn't want the slats to go right up against here, because that would be very difficult to do the carpeting. So I'll just put a little piece of 3.6mm ply there, and I'll put all of the edges of the slats up to that, and there should be enough to get the carpet behind them. On the other side here, what we have is I've made a centre mark just there, and similarly I've made a centre mark on the back. Now the idea is we want to put the first one in centrally and fix it to the ceiling. Now the way I've decided to fix it to the ceiling is with a line of glue and then staples into the roof battens. So I have my staple gun here ready to go. We have this first slat. I'm just going to measure that up and make sure that will affix properly doing this, and if I'm happy with that, then we'll continue outwards from either side of that. Right, I've cut this first one to length, and I'm just going to put a line of glue on it. And I also have centre marks on this. Right, I have a centre mark on the back here, I have a centre mark by the fan, and the idea is to see if we can get this up. Now I'll probably use the prop to steady it. I'll just move this back a bit so we can sort of see what's going on. Is that on there? And if we find the centre mark here, yeah, that on there. Now I'm just going to support that with a prop. I'm going to make sure that I'm straight, going down the van straight, then I'll fix that in. Once the first one's fixed in, the rest will go in much easier. So we want to make absolutely sure that this one is straight before we put the rest of them in. Okay, already I've checked them and I am happy with it. So at this point I'm going to put a staple in this one, and in this one. Okay, happy with that. That seems to be holding. It's nice and flush up against there. Once the glue goes off, that will be fine, and I'll just put a little dab of paint over the staples. Right, that one's in. I'm going to measure the next one down and we'll see if we can get that one in also. Okay, to put the next one in, this is a three-handed activity, but I'll try it with two. I'm going to put this piece of cladding on that line there. I'll put this next to it, and then I'll see if I can get a staple in. and I'll do that all the way along, and hopefully if that all works out we will have equal sort of tram lines right the way down the van. Okay, here we go. Right. And that on there. That's that one. Now I'm going to hold that, let's move along the van and do the next one. Okay, I've got the first few of those on and they are looking okay, I believe. I think the next one is going to encounter these light holes, so I'll figure out a way to do that and then I'll come back and show you what I'm doing. I think I'm going to have to prop it up with the prop, maybe two of them, and then mark where these holes are and then possibly jigsaw that piece out of the strip, but we shall see. Alright, now I don't know if you can see this, but I have this piece put in. Well, it's not put in, it's propped up. I'm going to put that there and put that there, and it's flush at the back, but as you see, this here is where the light is going to go. So what I'm going to do is just draw that little circle, or that little arc, so to speak, a little bit more over that way. I'm going to whip that out with the jigsaw. Now I'm going to go down the whole batten here, because it's the same all the way down where it's going to hit the lights, and I'm just going to push that up to the mark and mark where that wants to come out. Okay, and for this next one here, let's have a look. Again, I've just got this supported with a prop for now, because I want to get where this light is going to go. And we know it's here, and it's here. Okay, so I've got my marks here, and it is actually going to come up right to this line. So what I might as well do is just cut these off entirely and put the pieces back in. Now, the way to do that, I'm going to do that with the hole saw, and what I want is the hole saw to like hit that mark there and those two marks there. So I'm going to eyeball that up, which is about there, and I'm going to drill this out with a hole saw. Fingers crossed this will all work out okay. That looks reasonable to me. Let's have a go. Okay, that's looking good, and that's looking good. So I'm going to try this piece back in the van just to make sure I'm doing the right thing here, and if that works out okay, I'll do it with the other two on here. Okay, and now I'll just fit these on piece by piece. So put the first one in. Looking good. I'll get the next one in, then I'll test this with a light just to see if we need to do a little bit more rasping on this corner and that sort of stuff. And I have just an old light here which I will test, make sure we're good. Yes, that's going to fit in there just fine. Happy with that. Right, onward and upward. These, after this point here, let's have a look at this. This is just straight runs from this point on. So I'm going to cut a few to the correct length and I'll just whack them on quick. Same on the other side. But that's how I got around the thing with the light holes. I was going to jigsaw them out, but I found that the hole saw actually worked better for that. So that's all good, happy, and we can now pull the light tails back out and continue towards this side of the van. Okay, so just to show you this, I've finished this now. This is the ceiling. It's all done. I've got the lights in here. I've got the cowling on this fan. and the whole thing is complete. I'm very pleased with that, actually. I think it looks really, really good in this van. Now, moving right along, next thing we're going to do is start carpeting the walls. But for this video on how I put the ceiling in, that is indeed it. So I thank you very much for watching. If you've enjoyed the video, do give it a thumbs up. And if you would like to see the rest of this van build series, please do consider subscribing to the channel. And in the meantime, I thank you very much for watching.